It is just a huge honor for me today to be podcast interviewing two of my neighbors. They literally live up the street. Danny Masters, DMD, he's the male. Are you an alpha male or a beta male?
Alpha.
Okay, alpha. And he graduated from Roseman University in 2016. And that lovely lady next to him is Amber Masters, and she's a JD. You got to be an alpha male dentist to marry a lawyer. So, my God, you got more guts than I did. Daniel Masters is the owner of Greenfield Family Dentistry in Gilbert, Arizona, and he's also a fantastic ukulele player, which my two oldest sisters went straight into the nunnery after high school, and the oldest one, Mary Kay, who's like 2 years older than me, she's been a nun for longer than I've been a dentist. She's the best ukulele player in the world. So if she ever comes over to my house, next time she visits me, I'm taking her up the street into Gilbertville, and I'm going to tell her I know a homie dentist that might be able to learn her a thing or two on the ukulele. Dr. Daniel Masters is the owner of Greenfield Family Dentistry in Gilbert and a fantastic ukulele player. Amber Brown Masters, JD, is an attorney and personal finance expert. The Masters graduated from dental and law school with a whopping $650,000 in student loan debt. That's $250,000. Together, they've paid off over $350,000. Was that kids selling off kids to the orphanage or the adoption agency, or how many kids?
A couple. We keep it on the down low.
They paid off $350,000 in the last 3.5 years using principles they've recently incorporated into a free debt payoff app called Paidback, which is why I had them on the show. I asked them to come on the show, not the other way around. When they aren't practicing dentistry or law, they're chasing around their 10-month-old twins and a 6-year-old son. They enjoy road biking, mountain biking, boating, and traveling. The reason I brought you on the show is because you know very well, that there is a dental school up the street from you called A.T. Still. And those kids come out of school, and they're basically $400,000 in debt. Now, a lot of the big associations say the average student loan indebtedness is $279,000, and that's what I call intentionally lying with statistics, because they know full well
100%. Yes.
20% of those kids are like their dad was a dentist. I mean, when I went to dental school at UMKC, all the dads who were dentists, they picked up the dental school bill. You didn't have any tuition if your dad was a dentist. You had tuition if your dad was a plumber. But the way I see this is a little differently. I mean, when you get out of school, $400,000 student loans. My divorce was $3.8 million, and my student loans was $87,000. So if you take, I know, and I don't know if you know this, but when you're doing on your iPhone, when the numbers get too big, if you turn it on the side, it goes into scientific mode, and I have to do that
one more
for. No, it's scientific. Like up front, it'll only go. Like when I put $3,800,000, you can't go much bigger. But when you turn to the side, it's scientific mode. Go to all. But so my student loans, my divorce was 43.6 times more expensive than my student loans. And the student loans, you might say, well, that was only $87,000. It's $87,000, dude. That was in 1987. You put that on an inflation calculator. $87,000 would be about $250,000 today. So I get it. But what I want to tell you is this. You have this new app, and it's called the Deeply in Debt, the Paidback app. I hope your next app is why you should keep your old cars, old wife, old anything. You don't need a new car, and you don't need a new wife. You go buy a new car and a new wife. My Lexus is 2004. It has 180,000 miles on it, and everybody tells me, you got to get a new one. Now I'm in love with it. I mean, I'd feel bad if I took her to the junkyard. I mean, I want to get
part of the family, right?
Yeah, I want to get 250,000 miles. But I'm telling you this, man, your divorce is going to make your student loans look like a batting practice. And then the other thing is this. I grew up, I had 2 older sisters. There were 7 kids in our family, 2 older sisters, 3 younger, and a little brother. Who was born after I left home. It's called Catholic birth control. I'm not going to go into Vatican roulette right now, but it doesn't always work. My brother Paul is proof of that. But the average cost of raising a child in America from birth to 17, not including college, is $233,000. So my parents had 7 kids, and I only had 4. And now I have 4 boys. The oldest boy was just as crazy as me. He already has his 4 kids. 2 of them have only had one and are seriously debating a second. And the 4th one's like, no way, man, no way. So remember, if you graduate $400,000 in student loans, one way to get rid of those loans, if you're planning on having 5 children, have 3. So again, divorce is the real cost. 2 kids equals a dental degree. At this point, I'm going to shut up and well, first of all, congratulations. It's still marrying this man, even though he had 0 debt, but you knew he was going to drag you under $250,000. So what was the thing about Danny that just made you look to brush off $250,000? Was he a great dancer?
He's got this $5 million smile.
$5 million smile.
We met in a hot tub. I sold her there.
Seriously, did you meet in a hot tub?
It's the wrong podcast for that, Danny.
Oh my gosh, that is so awesome. I take it you have abs. I take it you. I have a total ripped 6-pack, but you need an MRI or a CAT scan to see it. And now you got 3 kids, so I want to go to that. 2 kids equals a dental degree, or is 3 the caboose? Or you gonna try to someday live in a shoe? Or how many kids are you gonna have?
We'll see. I don't know.
Initially, after we had the twins, it was kind of like, well, yeah, this is a lot. It's a lot of work. I don't know. Now that they're 10 months, we're kind of like, maybe have one more. We'll see where it takes.
I'll tell you what, my little brother was a mistake. I can still remember, like yesterday, I was in high school, and my mom came down and woke me up in bed, and she was crying, and I was the first person she told. She didn't know how to tell my dad. And I said, Dad's already got 7 kids. I said, he knows about a year from now, the love of his life is going to be this kid. And then I had another friend who's way too Catholic for his own good, and he was just so completely losing it because his daughter got pregnant out of wedlock. And I said, shut the hell up. I said, if you don't shut up right now, every time you go to show me a picture of your favorite grandchild or whatever, I'm gonna not even let you go visit it, because it's gonna be the biggest thing that ever happened in your entire life. That's why I always tell people when they say, well, should I have a kid in dental school? Dude, you should have a kid any day of the week. I mean, they're just, they're better than your dog.
It'll never be convenient. There's never an awesome, easy time to have a kid. So, you make it work.
And that makes my point exactly. I got out of dental school, and I said, the longer you think about this, opening up your own practice, you're just going to give yourself, an ulcer and worry. Mm-hmm. And I knew it was the same as swimming. Just dive in the damn pool and you're not going to drown. And it's the same with kids. When we got married, we had 4 boys in 60 months. I mean, that's a damn record. And my gosh, there's no good time to open up your own dental office or have a kid. So you know what you do? You do it before you think about it, and you're really young, you have energy. Because Easter, I was at 2 different houses for Easter looking at my kids and grandkids, and I'm just like, when I left, I was like, I could not do that again. I mean, I'm 59. I mean, my God, I remember not sleeping for a decade. I had 4 kids in my bed, I mean, you could put them to sleep anywhere in the house, but when you woke up, they were all in your bed. And when you heard that noise, like, okay, there's an hour. We got to get up and wash the sheets. Someone just threw up. I remember I only lost it almost one time. My oldest, Eric, he would come by my eye and he'd lift up my eyelid and with his thumb really forcefully and go, Dad. You'd wake up with this little monkey holding your eyelid up. And he goes, Cheerios. So I thought, okay, he's hungry. So I got up and I made a bowl of Cheerios. And I looked up at the kitchen clock, and I knew I had a molar root canal at 7. It's 4 o'clock, and he's eating those Cheerios one at a time. And I'm just sitting there like, you need to double up on them Cheerios, You need to, that spoon will hold 2 or 3. You don't eat them one at a time at 4 o'clock in the morning. But my gosh, so just do it, because you're not going to go bankrupt, and you're never going to regret having that kid. And so we'll put the and then here's the other thing I don't understand is, they come out of AT still and they say, well, I got a lot of debt, so I'm going to first get a job and pay down some debt. And I say, okay, well, if that's a great idea, this school's been around for a long, long time. Let's go back 5 years, get all the graduates, and they all went and got a job at McDuck in a box, and I'm sure they're all there living happily ever after. And of course, we don't see that. We see they've changed jobs. In 5 years, they've had like 7 different jobs, and they hate every one of them. And I said, look, you're a doctor, you're a lawyer, you're a physician. You don't take orders well. You're a horrible employee. You always know more than your boss. I said, once you reach the level of doctorate in law, doctorate in dentistry, you know everything, and you're only going to be happy if you run your own place. So don't go be somebody's, you didn't go to 8 years of school to become a doctor of law or a doctor of dentist to be somebody's bitch and a doc in the box. So you're going to be miserable. So just dive in head first, open up, have however many kids you want. If you want 3 kids, open up your dental office and have 3 kids by Friday, because you're not going to go bankrupt. You're going to survive, and you're going to be all right. And I showed that with the last video. I mean, when I went to the donut store on Easter morning, because you're not going to show up to an Easter egg hunt without donuts, right? I mean, isn't there a law about that or something? I looked on that door of that donut place by Signal Butte and the 60 by that Walmart. They're open 5 a.m. to 10 p.m. 7 days a week. That's life in the whole business. That's why we went to dental school, so we don't have to work 5 a.m. to 10 p.m. 7 days a week. So, so when you tell me how competitive dentistry is, I tell you, just turn in your license and go open up a donut factory and then get back to me in a year. But tell us your journey, because everybody listening to you with $400,000 of student loans, they need a plan. They need an idea. They need you.
Well, and it's just to kind of preface we started this whole thing and making our journey public when we graduated, because just like all those AT Steel guys you talk about, you graduate and you're like, well, wait, should I go work at a corporate place, or what should I do with this? What should I do with that? Because you're so stressed that you have this much debt and you've got to make sure you do it right. And you're trying to look for help. And, the school brings these financial advisors to come help you that just try to sell you life insurance. And, one of the big takeaways, like we've talked about, that at least one of my big takeaways over the last couple of years has been just do it. It might not be perfect, but what do you want out of life? What are your priorities?
I think like maybe the advice we wish we were given, like when we were trying to make all the decisions, like, are we going to buy a practice? Are we going to pay off our debt or seek student loan forgiveness, or what are we going to do? We thought there was like a perfect answer for us and for everyone. And like, there was like the secret answer that like some people knew about and we just didn't know. And so we were going to find it. But like, come to find out, there's not like a perfect, I know like dental students, especially, like they don't like hearing that there's not a perfect answer, but there's really not. It's what's best for you, what's best for your family. Danny wanted to own a dental practice, so we bought one. He wanted to go to dental school, so we went. So we wanted to have kids, so we did it. And you just make it work for you based on your own life goals and what you want to do.
And one of the big, when we started out, it was, I knew I wanted to own. I wanted my own practice, wanted to be my own boss. Starting out, I wanted to at least learn dentistry. So yeah, we went and worked for the corporate mill, did that for a couple of years. And it was everything that we've talked about. It was, I worked Saturdays, I worked late, and it was kind of like, I didn't go to all this dental school and take on all this debt to be someone's bee, so it was like, all right, well, let's do this. Let's, and let's do it somewhere where we want to live, where we would actually enjoy living. Because that was another thing too, is that when we started out, it was, well, let's go somewhere where, we can do well, because, Utah is so saturated. So we better leave Utah, even though we like hiking and biking and skiing and all of that. So we tried Oklahoma for a bit, and it's great. People, super awesome, great people. We met great friends. But life, and we paid a lot of debt off, but in the end, it was the lifestyle wasn't there. It was like, we've got to go vacation everywhere we want to do anything we like to do. And so when we started looking for practice, that's what drew us to Arizona was, hey, we can do a lot of that and enjoy life and not have to vacation just to go mountain biking.
My gosh, you said so many things that I don't even know where to begin. But let's start. Let's start with we were joking at the beginning. I said that, are you an alpha male or a beta male? And you said you're an alpha male. You said Danny wanted to own his own practice, so we did. I want to talk about that just a little bit, because there's more to geometry and calculus. There's anthropology, and humans are dimorphism species where there's a huge difference in size between males and females. Males are about 25% bigger. Chimpanzees are the same size, but bonobos are the female leader. You go to there's only three main primates: sapien, chimpanzee, bonobos. Bonobos, the female is smaller, but she's a leader, just like in blue whales. I mean, you go out to Hawaii, a lot of people see the whales in Hawaii. They go out there in the winter and they see the sperm whales and they think, wow, they're huge. And they saw these. No. You got to go back in June and see the damn blue whales, bigger than any dinosaur. I mean, they are crazy. And by the way, I had my one of my few interspecies connections with that deal, and I'm not even making that up. They're not allowed to get within so many feet of these whales. So they got to the place, they stopped. Well, there's a pot out there. Well, a baby came over, Curious Georgian, and the guy's on the speaker like, I can't believe this. I've done this forever, and I can't. And he starts going around us. And then he stops and he just starts rolling over. And when his head would come up, his retina was bigger than my head. It was a semi-vessel. Then out of nowhere, that female way out in the horizon lifts her tail out of the water and smacks the top of that water. And that baby just shot over there. I mean, I knew how Wells said, get your ass back over here right now. Or I'm going to beat your butt. I mean, it was just amazing. Mm-hmm. But I noticed that that in our species, I mean, the bonobos, I think we could learn a hell of a lot from a bonobos, and it blows my mind that there's like 9 presidents of countries like Merkel and in New Zealand, and no one's talking about bonobos. I mean, no one ever talks about it. Like, what are their difference in leadership? But I noticed that in the people staying at DSOs, 2/3 are females. So 2/3 are females. We're a dimorphic society. And then the other thing is economics. Money's the answer. What's the question? Women always marry up and men always marry down. A man can be the valedictorian of his dental school class and marry the waitress at the Waffle House if she looks just right. And women dentists, you're a lawyer, women dentists, women lawyers, physicians, their husband always has a $10,000 a month job. A woman lawyer won't marry the cook at the Waffle House, but her damn husband would, and so their husband always has a great job. So then you got economics where, we're gamete mixers, but the female incubates the gamete. So that's a 9-month ordeal. They always marry someone with a good job. You know how many of my male friends have a stay-home wife? Almost all of them do. Almost all of them. You say to them, what do you do? Oh, I stay home, raise the kids. Your kids graduated from college 3 years ago and they're married and they live in a different state. Well, there's still a lot to do with those kids. You know what I mean? But, so I want to ask you, why do you think you wanted to own your own practice? And, the question flipped back to your lovely wife. Do you own your own law practice?
I wanted to own my own dental practice. Basically, I didn't want someone telling me what to do. Not that I'm, some huge extrovert. I'm actually introverted, relatively, but I worked hard and I wanted to do my own thing. I wanted to build equity in something. That was one of the big things while I was working at the DSO was, here I was working Saturdays, working till, late on Fridays and working till 8:30 during the week. And it was like, what am I doing? I mean, yes, I'm collecting some extra money because that root canal came in that I said yes to, but I'm not, I'm helping this dude build his practice and give his practice a name. I want to do that for myself. So that was one of the big pushes for me.
Amber, do you own your own law practice?
I don't own a law practice, but I do own my own businesses. So I own the app and I function as the CEO of the app right now. Same with the blog. So I do like some side hustling, lawyering, but not like my own business. Not my own firm.
In your backyard, we both live here in Arizona. Do you see more women employees? We're ground zero for DSOs because our governor, Doug Ducey, passed a law that I wanted passed 30 years ago, which is basically any law to get the government out of our face. But it was easier for hospitals in Arizona to recruit nurses from Ireland, where our family tree left in 1840, than it was to hire them from California because they couldn't come over here because of the boards. And Ducey just said, this is crazy. If you have a license to practice dentistry or medicine or nursing or law or whatever, in any state, you're good in Arizona. So Arizona's ground zero for DSOs. 18 out of 100 dentists in Arizona work for a DSO. When you look at the long tail, the last 5 states aren't even at 1%. There's Arizona 18%. Do you see most of the long-termers female? Like all my friends that have been with, like, say, Pacific 10 years or longer, every one of them is a woman. And they love it because they're like a single woman. They got a 10-year-old kid. You know, when you're a single mom with a 10-year-old kid, you don't have time to wear all these hats. You know what I mean? But do you see that in the backyard? And how do you explain for that right now in the DSOs in America, 2 out of 3 of their docs are women?
I can see that just because it's, like with Amber, we knew we wanted to have kids, and, not to play, she's tough and she's not going to fall into the traditional roles, nor does she want to, nor should she. But you need a family needs money, and, you have kids to raise, and you need money to raise those kids. And I think a lot of it is, women tend to raise the kids, or I'm going to get kicked here, I think, but it allows for the women to, do that without having the pressure of, oh geez, what about my practice? I've got, this going on and that. It I don't know, alleviates some stress. I'm trying not to be chauvinistic or anything.
Well, Amber,
we can just get facts with you.
Here's what the girls tell me. They go, if you're a female dentist and your husband's a lawyer and you both come home from work, the law firm, the dental is 5 o'clock, guess who still is going to cook dinner and do the homework and go through the backpack and do all the mom stuff? They go, okay, he's got a 4.0 and he's really smart and he knows everything, but he just sits in that chair and watches ESPN and doesn't even think maybe I should go through the kid's backpack and see if he did his homework or talk. And what I did is, my gosh, the luckiest move I ever made. I remember when I went to the first parent-teacher conference. My gosh, it was on a Friday, and it was Thursday, and I was looking at my schedule for the next day, and they said that I was blocked out Friday morning. And, we worked on those days, and I said, who, for what? And they go, your wife blocked it out because it's parent-teacher conference. And I'm already blown like 3 vessels because, in Ahwatukee, all the dentists are Monday through Thursday. On the weekends, it's only the 2 young Catholic kids, but they each had 4 kids, me and Matter. And we both had, 4 kids, young, hungry. We were working Fridays and half-day Saturday. And I'm at this parent-teacher conference just trying not to implode. And she tells me, she goes, well, when Eric draws the letter A, the circle goes above the dotted line, and I'm like, I mean, there's 25,000 people in Ahwatukee. They're having toothaches, or having emergencies, or going to the emergency room, and you made me cancel all my patients to tell me that the letter A went above the dotted line. Who gives a shit where the dotted line is? And then when I was all done, my ex told me, you're not allowed to go to any parent-teacher conferences ever again. Then I thought, that's the best news I've ever heard. So do you agree with that? That if you and your husband are both lawyers, you both come home from the law firm, that since that you're a female, you're the mom, you're still going to have more needs to go through the backpack and find out if they have homework and all that stuff?
Yeah, well, and I know statistically that is true in most households. I think it is changing. I think dads are stepping up and helping with the household work, taking care of the kids. I know Danny is a great dad. He does a lot of things, but the first thing he thinks when he gets home from work is not oh, I'm going to start making dinner now. So, I mean, there's just these traditional roles that we're still kind of getting through and trying to figure out, even in 2021, that we're sharing more roles, but it's still the burden is mostly on mom or the women of the house to do these kind of tasks. So it makes
I
it
think
hard.
I see it differently. Like I don't know where you find, I don't know if it's in the Old Testament, the New Testament, where you have to change your bed sheets every Monday and wash them and dry them. I went through 4 years of dental school. I'm pretty sure I never changed my sheets all 4 years of dental school. You put everything in the washing machine and you put a cup of that stuff in there on cold. I mean, so I think there's a lot of instincts. Like I never had a desire to go through my kids' backpack when they came home from school, but their mother treated it like a crime scene. Like there's evidence in here that'll be held against, you know. So I think some of it may be instinctually different needs.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, maybe not. But when you look at a dimorphic species, and if you can just see dimorphism right out of the deal, to say there's nothing dimorphic inside their brain, and then you see all this pattern of every woman dentist tells me, I don't care. Yeah, I'm a woman dentist, and my husband's an oral surgeon. But when we get home from school, guess who's going to do the homework? You know what I mean? And so that's why they tell me they'd rather be an employee at Pacific or Heartland or MB2 or whatever. So the student loan deal, what's the worst you've ever seen? And how do they get it? So should they go to, I got so many websites for you. Your dental office is Greenfield Family Dentistry, but I got a website. You got one, Deeply in Debt, the Paidback app, the app at the App Store. Which website should they be going to right now to look at?
For information about student loans, deeplyindebt.com. For like actually computing their own student loans and figuring out their debt, that's the Paidback app, which they can find in the App Store. So the website, the paidbackapp.com, or just search it in the App Store.
So I'm at Deeply in Debt, and people listening to us right now, they're driving in a car, unless they're one of those very unlucky people on a Stairmaster. And to those people, I just say, just get off. Just get off the Stairmaster. Hit a Taco Bell on the way home. So I'm on deeplyindebt.com. What are my homies going to find on that website?
They'll see our own journey. So we document our journey paying off debt, what we've done. They'll find information about student loans. They'll see like some of our side hustles. Like we have an Airbnb. We kind of share like our information about that. What they should be doing with their student loans during the pandemic, all kinds of personal finance stuff.
And is the crux so they get the app? Is that a big part of it? The plan?
Yeah, I mean they're kind of not necessarily related. So that deeplyindebt.com will be like where they're searching for what do I do with my student loans. The app has like a debt tracker, so they can enter in all of their debt that they have, whether it's student loans, credit card debt, whatever. They can also follow their friends' journeys who are paying off debt. So there's like a social media function to it. And then there's debt calculators. So they can see like, oh, what happens if I lower my interest rate on my debt? How much money can I save? That type of thing. There's debt calculators there as well.
It's nice because it makes it real simple and easy to see. And, it's kind of shocking sometimes because you open the app and it's just like, bam, 300 something thousand. Okay, it hasn't gone down that much since I last looked. All right, but it makes it easy. And like Amber said, it gives you those calculators that you can kind of play with things and, look at refinancing if you've gone private already or trying to figure your stuff out. So.
Well, I would tell you what I'm seeing right here. There was the landmark study. I mean, Masters and Johnson's out of St. Louis. Those were landmark studies. But there was a guy out of Washington, D.C. that was predicting divorce among couples 5 years in advance to about a 95 percentile rate. And the whole world didn't believe it, but it was a turn of events when they came out with the high-speed cameras. They're getting digital computers. But anyway, it's all in body language. They always told you that 7% is communication, the rest is body language. And what he found out is that he would put a couple in the room and he'd ask a neutral subject like, tell us about your dog. And he'd see how they talk while they were getting filmed at like 100 frames per second. And the body language just said like they said, well, my friends, my dog, your friends, your dog, my parents, and he's like, look at their words. They're not married. Then there's another couple. It's our kids, our everything. And when one person's speaking, you're looking, and when you're talking, she's looking, and you guys couldn't even get divorced because you're not even two people. You're falling into one. And what I see on the finance deal is the doctor is not transparent with the economic. It's always transparency. 5 5,000 years of history, we only learned a couple of things. One is humans learn nothing from history. Number two, the last 5,000 years, the bad guy was always the government. They killed about 6 out of 100. And the good guys were always the individual, and you only killed like 1% of your family, while the government killed 6%. But the bottom line is, my gosh, there's no transparency. And the wife will say, well, how much you get for a crown? The doc say like 1,000. So then sometimes you come home and say, well, how many crowns you do today? And he says 5. She's thinking, damn, dude made $5,000 because you're not transparent. She doesn't know that you charge 1,000 to your cash patients, but if you signed up with Delta, they're going to adjust that production down to 650, and then you have all this massive overhead. And she doesn't know what's going on, and then you get mad because she goes and buys a Gucci purse. And rule number 1 on finance is it's a family deal, and family first, business second, and the family has to do the finance together. I love, you got to get a CPA that's a dentist. That's a no-brainer. But the one I love the most is Kane Waters out of Dallas, simply because they will not take you on as a client if you don't bring your spouse with you. And if you say, oh, my spouse not into that, and they're like, well, then we're not into you because you're just going to be a disaster. And yeah, you want a dentist CPA, and there's a couple, there's the Academy of Dental CPAs, which is adcpa.org. There's the Institute of Dental CPAs. There's Kane Waters and Associates. You need a dentist who's a CPA, but you need to do all this stuff with your wife. And I can just tell by looking at you that I'm talking to one unit. And then you throw 3 kids onto that. So the finance is transparent. All your vocabularies, us. It's not, well, Danny's the dumbass who bought the Cerac machine. I'm still thinking about knocking his damn teeth out for that. So that's what you need to do first. You need to make this a family project and get the kids in there. You know how many young dentists tell me that whenever their parents pay the bills, they'd sneak out of the house because they knew it was going to be a war at the dinner table? And I thought, that's how money usually is. It's some emotional weird shit. So get your spouse, get transparent, get all the numbers out of you. So then I'm going to ask you this. When they came out with that well-done book by The Millionaire Next Door, that was, 15, 20 years ago, probably before you guys were born. I don't even want to know when you were born. And 2 PhDs, and the thing that blew everybody's mind is which occupation had the most retired millionaires? And it was a teacher. And everybody's like, what? Because a teacher knows that she's a teacher, so you're not going to buy a Range Rover and live in the equestrian center and up on the side of Camelback Mountain and go to vacation to Hawaii. You're a damn teacher. You're just going to go to the lake and go fishing, and they just live below the means. These dental students, lawyers, physicians, I mean, my God, they come out of law school. They immediately need a Porsche. They need a Beamer. They need a big house. Yep. They come out of AT Still, and this is what they say to me first year. Well, I'm $400,000 in debt. And I'm like, stop. Let me pull out the world's smallest violin and start playing along. Okay, $400,000 of student loans. There's 208 countries. If you were born in 180 of those countries, you wouldn't even have access to other people's monies, let alone a student loan or a mortgage on a house. You go to every other country, you have a 30-year mortgage on a house. You buy a done house and pay it off 30 years. They slowly build their house over 30 years, So I don't want to, get into all that. But then I'll say, well, you know what? I know your father. Why don't you just go move in with him and get 2 part-time jobs and just start getting a lot of experience? And they come back like 3 weeks later. Oh, I just married a girl and we just bought a $400,000 house in Gilbert. I'm like, what the hell happened? I said go live with your dad, and now you bought a house, you own a practice. And they say, no, I'm working somewhere. I'm like, it brings me back to my Guadalupe days where, I'm across street from Guadalupe Indian Reservation since 1987. And anytime one of those hot-looking boys that come in and wanted me to come out and see his car, I knew it was going to be a $30,000 lowrider. It was every single time. And he'd jump in his car, and I'd say to him, I said, Ricardo, come here. I said, I know you think this is a lady's car, and every lady in Guadalupe, I assume their first name is Maria, and almost all of them are. And I know that you think when you drive down the Cott Street, Maria's going to want to ride in your car. But you know what Maria wants? She wants a man with dental insurance. You could have paid this $30,000, gone to DeFry, and instead of pushing a lawnmower, you'd be working at Intel, and you'd have medical. I said, go back to Guadalupe and tell them you got medical benefits and dental benefits. You could probably line 10 girls up in a row on who wants to go out with you on Friday night. The lowrider thing, that's in your man mind. That ain't in her mind. And so who has a car when you're home floor is dirt floor and you got a $30,000 purple lowrider? That's crazy. Well, what's the dental equivalent? They buy a home in Gilbert before they buy their own means of production. Which is where the word socialism came from. Socialism several centuries back was, obviously the kings and queens are going to come and tax half my crop. They put up with that. But when they took away their land, and now they were landless squatter peasants, and they were going to get half their crop stolen. That's when they drew swords and fought to death, And socialism was, I am going to fight to own my own means of production. You can take half my grain, but you're not taking my farm. And I see people with 8 years of college go buy a damn house for $400,000, and they don't own their means of production. They're working as some associate, and during a contraction, their jobs will be thrown out the window. And then they're like, oh, you're a dentist, but you don't have your own dental chair. Tell me more about that. Here, let me pull up the chair and make myself some tea while you tell me why a dentist owns a $400,000 home and doesn't own a dental chair. What would you say to that, Danny?
I think it's just dentists are so confused about money right now, especially, well, at least, the newer grads coming out with this much debt. It's, growing up, you look at dentists and you heard stories that, oh, dentistry, it's great. All of a sudden you find yourself saying, hey, wait, I want that, what everyone else kept talking about while I was growing up. And I think the way that the government basically just gives whatever the school asks for, the government's going to give you money for. That's not a barrier to entry anymore. It's, you don't need any money to go to dental school, and you don't even have to think about paying it back, because then the government's also developed all these special programs that, oh, don't worry, you just pay 10%, $100 a month is all, and that's what you'll pay for your dental education. And at the end, there's this tax bomb, but, oh, you'll be a rich dentist by the end, and you don't have to worry about that. And so dentists come out and they buy these nice houses, and, they stick to associateships or DSOs because, oh, but I've got a lot of debt, so I don't want to add more debt to that with the practice, because that would be bad, right? Yeah. And honestly, I think it goes back, I think it was even one of you on one of your podcasts a good while back, but basically we invest so much money in our dental education, and then we're all of a sudden afraid to take on more debt, which, yeah, growing up, debt was a bad thing for me. But as I've graduated dental school and we've kind of gotten into things, we've come to realize that it's a vehicle. It will take you somewhere if you want it to. Use it wisely. Don't just go out and buy a Porsche and a crazy expensive house. But if you use debt wisely, it'll work for you. Don't just all of a sudden say, oh, I've taken out $400,000 at school debt, I'm not going to do anything else. I'm just going to be an associate. No, go buy a practice. It's better for you in the long run. I mean, not for everyone, but a good chance it will be.
Much more likely to make more owning than you are as an associate. Sometimes
one thing I like to do is when you're, you always see people up in the leaves of the tree and they're all arguing this and that. Well, we all got the same brain. There's 8 billion people. I mean, it'd be absurd to go to an anthill and say, oh, see that ant on the right? Yeah, he's a genius. He's smarter than the other ants. No, they're all ants. They're all cockroaches. They're all whales. They all have the same brain. So if you go look at macroeconomics, you can see where this tree is going. And the average net income for a dental specialist is $320. A general dentist, $197. Average income for a dentist who owns their own practice is $244, and a dentist employee is $147. So if you say, well, I want to add associates, how much could I make off an associate? Well, the answer is $100,000 a year for the macro. Now, due to your special circumstances, might be high or low, but the macro number is you'll make $100,000 more if you specialize, as opposed to being a general dentist. That's the trend from 1900 to 2020 is just specialization. I got a school, there were 8 specialties, now there's already 12. My eye doctor friends, I mean, shit, there's eye doctors for that just do glaucoma. Some only do retinas. Some only do whatever. But so you're going to make $100,000 more if you specialize and $100,000 more if you own your own practice. And if you can get someone out of pain is where the big money is. You got to be able to extract a tooth, oral surgeons make the most, or do a root canal. And when you tell me that you don't like endo, well, you know, sapiens are 200,000 years old. We've lived through 2 ice ages where our ancestors had to spend the whole winter frozen in a cave eating frozen mastodon shit. I'm sure there were nights they didn't like that either. So if they can eat frozen mastodon shit all winter, you can do a damn root canal. You got to be a real doctor, and a real doctor can get you out of pain. And if you can't get someone out of pain, you're not a real doctor. But I want to, how do you live below your means? Because I know alpha bull males, they like to come home in a Land Rover, Range Rover, a big Ford 350. The girls always want all the jewelry and the bling and the Gucci purses and all that stuff. How do you guys live or attempt to, well, first of all, do you think you live below your means? Is that where the savings is coming from?
Yes, definitely. I think the 2 biggest things, and I'll let you take a crack at this, but I think the 2 biggest things are keeping your cost of your housing down and the cost of your cars down. Those are 2 expenses that can be enormous and completely destroy or eat up your budget. And if you can keep those big things down, then it's like not a big deal if you want to stop at Starbucks every day while you're paying off debt or whatever. If you can keep the big expenses down, that's huge. And like for us, like Danny drives a 2004 Toyota Matrix. Like the doors are falling off. The bumper like is literally zip tied. Even though, you know, he owns his own practice and makes a good living.
And every other dentist around me has a truck, and I just pull into the CE events with my little Matrix and feel super out of place.
What are you driving? What is it?
A Toyota Matrix.
I never even heard of a Toyota Matrix. But my car is even worse. Yeah. Not only at 2004 with 180,000 miles on it. I was backing out of the driveway when my granddaughter, my perfect granddaughter, by the way, opened the door and it bent back and it made a loud pop and she started crying. I pulled up and I told her, I said, you know, nobody's hurt. You know, who cares? It's a car door. So I just smashed it back. But when I take it in, they want to put in a new door. But every time I look at that, my granddaughter made that. And I mean, my granddaughter bent my door in half, and it's like I like that part the most. But I'll tell you what, you got to learn how to keep your wife, your old house, and your old car. And whenever you start telling me why you need a new wife, a new house, and a new car, you're wrong. You're an idiot, and you're going to overpay a shitload of money, and it's not going to make you happy. And even in my 32 years all with Tukey, you know which specialist I've got the most feedback over the years from patients that have been with me since day one that come up and tell me, by the way, I want to tell you something. You know, back in TMJ, I mean, I never understood Dawson. I never really did. I mean, I even on my podcast with him before he passed away, I'd say, okay, so, because I'd say, you know, is you think it might be stress or psychology? And no, it was an interference of mine. And I say, okay, but let's say a patient comes in and she just found out that her daughter's a crack whore and her house is being repossessed and her husband's a drunk and do you think maybe that might make him grind the teeth? And he's like, well, it's an interference. And I'm like, and when I would see TMJ, I would sit there and think, okay, I don't believe the interference thing because I was doing ortho. Everybody that believes this religion has never done a single ortho case. And I did Richard Litt's ortho course. I did Jack Sheraton's. There's only 2 board certified orthodontists. One's right here in our own town, Harry Green. And the other one is out there, he did in Detroit, Richard Litt. In fact, Harry Green, if you're listening to this, my own aunt, I know I'm not allowed to say this, but my own aunt came over, and she had massive TMJ and all this kind of stuff. And he said, well, she needs braces. And I said, well, she's like 65. And my aunt says, well, I've always wanted braces, but we couldn't afford it. Anyway, he did her braces and unlocked her overbite and all that stuff. She's never had TMJ since. That was like 30 years ago, and she's still alive. And she thinks Harry Green is the greatest guy in the world and whatever. But, when you do an ortho case, I mean, you can super up the tooth to where it's only tooth touching by an accident. And then, flip them into TMJ and all that stuff. But I think all the TMJ freaks have never done any ortho, and you need to be cross-trained. But anyway, when those people would come in, they were really stressed out and they're grinding their teeth. I had one psychologist that was a boy for the boys and a girl for the girls. And I'd say, you know what, you're really grinding your teeth. And I was just wondering, do you think there might be any stress in your life, like change jobs, change cars, death of a spouse, child, some event that might, and they're always like, So I would send the boys to one guy and a girl to the other instead of, to a TMJ expert.
Yeah.
And over the years, they come back. I mean, I've had 10 guys come up to me and said, man, I was off the deep end. You had no idea where my brain was. And you sent me to John, and that was a lifesaver. And I'm sitting there, I'm so dumb. I'm sitting there thinking, yeah, and you don't grind your teeth. That's how dumb I am. I'm all like, yeah, and you're not grinding. I fixed that tooth grinding thing. He's thinking, of all the hell he avoided. And dumbass is looking at how many... make sure he's just wearing 15 microns of enamel a year. But money, well, you're talking about money and sex are the two most stressful subjects for humans. Money and sex, especially if you're paying money for sex, then it's even more stressful. You can't combine those. So how do you talk about money? The two things marriages can't talk about is money and sex. How do you talk about money without it emotionally triggering war and alpha bull male and, pounding the table or whatever monkeys do?
I'd say we're lucky. Well, I'm lucky in the sense that I'm the spender. She's not the spender. And even then, when I say I'm the spender, it's not
a bad spender.
I'm pretty minimal. So neither of us goes and buys random things. And for the longest time at the start of our marriage, our budget was just don't buy stuff. And we just didn't really buy anything. And then we do, honestly, with the twins lately, it's gotten a little more sporadic, but we try and have weekly meetings where we sit down and we chat. And I feel like when we have more regular meetings and when we have more regular chats about money, the little things don't build up to ever be big things.
It's kind of like sex. The more you do it, the better you get. So the more you're having these conversations with each other, the less explosive they're going to be. And I think also coming at it, going into these types of conversations, trying to understand the other person. Like I'm never going to be able to control Danny. If he wants to buy something, he's a grown man. He's going to go buy it, and vice versa is true. And so if you come into the conversation from a place of understanding, why is this person, like, why is my spouse feeling like they need to spend, or why are they being so uptight about spending, and try to understand the other person. I mean, this is more getting into like marriage counseling, but then that understanding really helps. I think you are able to buoy each other up better and share. I mean, money's hard to share. And so it's just like kindergarten. You have to share and be understanding.
And sometimes you just have to go to sleep. It's, it's been rare, but there have been times where I don't even remember what the money issue was, but it was kind of just like, we kind of just walked away from the table. You talk about it the next day.
And society is so manipulated, like they run commercials that you should buy when you're gonna engage your wife. The ring should be 2 months' earnings. It's like, what the hell? Yeah. Life, nice and life. Marriage till the end has been reduced to 2 months' wages for a piece of rock, and then what's even embarrassing is this is why I get so mad when dentists can't sell dentistry, because we know Americans are gonna, for every dollar they make, they're gonna spend at least $1.05 for the year. I mean that everybody, the debt is just insane. But here's what I don't understand. There is about, here it is. Where's my favorite? This is my favorite slide in the whole world. The average new car price in America is $33,560. I got two sources on that: Kelley Blue Book, USA Today. On average, an American will buy 13 new cars by age 76. Source, Anthony Pratt, Polk Director of Forecasting. And the average length of a car is 4.6 years because they finance them 5. And when they only finance them 4, the average length of a car was just a couple months under 4 years. I mean, it's just insanity. If you got rid of financing, I mean, so here's a dentist. The average price of a new car is $33,506. 95% of all dentists will practice their whole life and never do one case for $33,000. And then you say, well, what's wrong? They'll say, oh, it's the president, it's the economy, it's the Japanese, it's everything but the fact that all your patients bought 13 new cars. And then when they came into you, you said, well, which one of your teeth hurts the worst? They point to the shittiest tooth in their mouth. They're like, well, I could do a root canal, build up and crown, but it'll take all your insurance. And then next year you come back and point to the second most shittiest tooth in your mouth. Meanwhile, you walk on a car lot and they're like, oh my God, how would you like to drive that truck? It's only $33,500. And the car payment, if you're looking at that, that's only like $300 a month. And 1 in every 20 dentists, their hours are Monday through Thursday, but all day long, they're pitching the new car. And most people don't get the new car. Most people get the used car, whatever. But every once in a while, and who taught me this was Omar Reed, who passed away. Omar would walk in there, and he'd say, well, what do you want to do? I mean, if you just have a limited problem, if some tooth's bothering you, I can fix that. Looking at your x-rays, we could take everything out of your mouth and replace it all brand new, and you'd walk out of here with $1 million smile for like 25 grand. I don't know if that's where you're headed. And like you say that to 10 people, and I'm just gonna say, you take everything out, and I'd have movie star teeth for 25 grand. And then when I started selling them back in the day, I didn't even know that. I didn't even think about filling the order. I didn't want to learn IV sedation, so I'd have an anesthesiologist come in. And then when I found out that I was going to have to do 4 molar root canals on this lady, I started getting on the phone and endodontist. I'm not doing 4 molars back to back while some lady's passed out snoring. And you end up just being a conductor. I mean, the anesthesiologist comes in, the endodontist did the root canals, a periodontist placed the implants. But I would, during the impression, I would go in at the very end and I would touch the impression tray. Because I think all my magical doctor juices when I touch the tray, and then you're
the only one qualified. Yeah,
I know. And it'd be like a $25,000 case. And I said to Omar, yeah, but you didn't add up. He says, Howard, it's 25 grand. I know there's some margin in there somewhere. And, I just sell the car. And he was saying 25 because back then that was about what a new car is. Now it's about $33,560. But how do all your customers buy a new car in less than 5 years, 13 times in their lifetime, and then all your customers say, well, what does the insurance do? I say, well, I went to after I had 4 kids, I went to the insurance and I wanted a vasectomy, but my insurance will only pay for a castration. So guess what I did? I paid my own money to keep my own balls. Do you think the insurance company gives a shit about you? The bottom line is, what do you want? And then here's the other thing. My 4 boys, to this day, even though the oldest one's 30, when any of their high school friends get a new car, they always drive it by my house. And, and you got to go out there and you got to look all excited and all this. And, and they always get in and they always turn the radio on for you, 100% of the time. And it's like, when you deny all of your patients from ever just having a smile makeover. They go to their friend and they look at my teeth, because you were sitting there staring at the insurance form and just keeping them to a minimum. I mean, we're talking about how do you live below your means? America doesn't live below their means. Your government doesn't live below the means. I mean, my God, they're $23 trillion in debt. And as an MBA from ASU, you don't even want to know what I am most afraid of right now, because this thing looks like, it looks like a bubble. I mean, I graduated from high school in 80. That was 20.5% interest rate, double-digit unemployment and inflation. I graduated in 87. 133 days later was Black Monday. The stock market fell a quarter. Then the Y2K thing, that wasn't pretty. Lehman's Day wasn't pretty. I've seen this movie 4 times, and I know how it ends every time. And I'm looking at it for the 5th time in a row. And the Americans, what are they doing? They're bidding up prices of housing. More houses were bought with the initial bid was above the asking price. rings on 1 out of 5 homes. I mean, I know my monkeys. They're crazy. They're crazy monkeys. And we're talking about living below your means, but my homies can't even sell dentistry to people who've lived their whole life above their means. And if they don't get the Smile Makeover, they're going to get the Mustang. So why don't you get the Smile Makeover and they won't have gum disease instead of the Mustang? But I think, so my question to you is this, specifically to Amber. Amber, all your girlfriends have a wedding ring where the diamond is bigger than Mount Rushmore or whatever. How were you able to talk yourself down the wall from buying the 3-carat perfect diamond ring?
We just didn't have the money. And honestly, like at the time, I didn't even know people were like financing, like that you could even do that. We were so young. We were like 20 and 21. Danny had a little bit of savings. I think my ring cost $1,000, and
I was like 2.
He drained 2. He would know. I don't even know how much it cost, but I remember him saying he spent like a whole savings account on it, and I was like, why? But then I hear my friends talk about like $8,000 rings, $12,000 rings, $15,000 rings. And I think I just got lucky. Danny just knew, I mean, he wanted to like buy me a nice ring. He used a whole savings account, but not to like go into debt over it. So that was all Danny.
Man, I'm so old. Back in my day, you could get any size diamond ring you want for almost no money. But now they got all those security cameras and you're being filmed, so you can't do that anymore.
Yeah.
Something like that, right?
Yeah. Danny caught that joke pretty quick. But anyway, so in a nutshell, what are you asking these people to do? So they're listening to you. They're $400,000 in student loans. What is their action plan? Do they go to Deeply in Debt and sign up for something? Send you their email? What do they do?
Go download the app and enter in all of your debt, enter in your student loans, enter in your credit card debt, your car loan, any of the debt that you have. This is going to be like a hard pill to swallow because you're going to see all of your debt in one easy to see place, and it kind of hurts. It's not always pretty finding out like that total amount. And then you're going to start paying off debt. So if you have, it's going to show you your highest interest debt, and that's what's going to cost the most for you. So we recommend paying off your high interest debt first. You can do it however you want. That's what we recommend. You're going to start paying it off. You're going to use the app to track it. And eventually you're going to get out of debt and you're going to be fine. And you can go to deeplyindebt.com if you're like, what the heck do I do with my student loans? Like today, there's answers to that question. You can feel free to reach out to me or Danny, and we'll answer questions as we can. You can find us on Instagram. We're Deeply in Debt on Instagram. So, yeah.
You're deeply in love and deeply in debt. That's nice. So what is the best way for them to contact you? Deeply in Debt on Instagram? Or
just shoot me an email at amber@thepaidbackapp.com.
Amber@thepaidbackapp.com. Amber@thepaidbackapp.com. And not to get too personal, but we're both in Arizona. Everyone knows that if you come out of dental school and you have a kid, you're either a Mormon or you're LDS, one of the two. It's a big question. There's probably 10 couples. A quarter of our listeners are still in dental kindergarten school, and I think about 10% of every dental school I've ever been to was LDS. It has to be. And by the way, what I love the most about the LDS is lecturing in 50 countries. My God, I would almost wreck the car, jump out of the cab if I saw them 2 boys on a bicycle, because I knew that was the only place I could get the lowdown of where I was. Whether I was in Belize, Brazil, whatever, I'd say, stop.
Sure.
And I'd get out and I'd show them my LDS cred, that I'm from Ahwatukee and blah, 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 blah. And I'd say, okay, we're in Belize, and it's warm. It's got great soil. It grows bananas. Looks like, I'm from Kansas. It looks like you can grow shit down here. You guys are young. Why do you think it's so poor? And you could tell they would just like, oh yeah, we talk about that every night. And I've had this conversation with 2 Mormon boys on a bicycle in at least 25 countries. In fact, if you go to Dental Town, it says your local dental town. We got 208 countries, and then there's a thread. Every time I lecture in that country, I say like my visit to Cambodia or Vietnam or what, all those countries. You know, I've got them there, and so a lot of those will have the pictures of the two little white T-shirts and the tie on the bicycles, and they always said the same thing in all 50 states. You know how I always say family first, business second? They'd say, well, you know, it just seems like every mom has like 3 kids from 3 dads, and their dads aren't really involved in the life, and the mom has to work like 2 or 3 jobs, and I just wish there was a way you could just get all the dads back in this home, you know, and so when you lose the family unit, I know you think the government, they'll come out with some socialized family program, and they'll just roll out socialized families, and it'll all be great, but it's not how it works. You got to keep the family together. That's why I'm saying about getting the debt. Save your marriage first, and all your fights. By the way, I said something that my own, the psychologist John that I've gone to and referred everyone to. He always says that the problem with you, if you don't fix your problems and you get remarried, you just carry the same shit to the new deal. But he doesn't like when people say that it's always about money or sex or drugs or whatever. It's just about communicating. It could be the fact that, I mean, he's had cases where it's just the fact that the husband comes home from work and he doesn't want to shower. He showers before he goes to work, but he wants to get all frisky with his wife after work, and he stinks. You know, he's worked construction all day and he smells, and I can see Emerson.
I know. Well, she agreed with that.
So it's just about communication. Like maybe you come home every night and drink 2 or 3 beers, and you think it's no big deal, but maybe it's really a big deal to the wife, but she doesn't want to talk about it. And then when she does, it's going to blow up. That's what you were saying. You know, when you have sex regularly, stuff doesn't build up. When you talk about money regularly, it's got to be in your routine, and you got to have a budget, and you got to have a year-end budget, and you got to know your numbers, whether you own your dental office or your home. And if you find yourself, and so what I would do with my team, I just say, I just call a timeout. Just like in a basketball game, you know how in the middle of a basketball game, they'll just call a timeout. And I would sit there and think, okay, I'm not going to dwell on this till our next staff meeting. I'm not going to hang on this the other day. I'm about to blow a gasket. So I just walk up there and say, hey, time out. I need a quick timeout. And I never gave a shit who's in the waiting room. You know, the staff's always like, can we do this in the back room? And I'm like, I know all these people. They can all go to hell. Here's the deal. This is not working. But you know, you just call a timeout. Let it out, and then we're not timeout, and then I feel 1,000 times bigger, but you got to communicate regularly. You got to communicate about money, and I don't care how hot you are. When your wife comes home and finds out you took out $300 on the ATM machine and didn't tell her, you know, it's not going to make her happy. And so just get totally transparent. But I want to ask you the LDS question. They're in dental school. They want to have a baby. And no one's going to say, yeah, that's a really good idea. In fact, why not have 3? So what do you say to the young kids from BYU that are probably 10% of all the dental schools around America who are in puppy love and want to have a baby in dental school, but they're like, well, I'm on student loans. I mean, this is hard to explain to my dad even. What would you tell them?
Oh, you've already on student loans, just have a baby. You know, it like we talked about earlier, you just do it literally, and you know, you just
having a kid. I mean, of course there's a financial component to it. Kids cost a lot of money, but that's like such a big life decision and such a personal decision. That's not a rational decision. So it's about when it's right for you and your spouse. We had a kid my 3rd year of law school, and I don't regret it at all. Of course, it adds, you know, like a financial component. It adds a little more stress, but that's not something you're ever going to regret.
Yeah, we did want to wait a little bit. And we did want to kind of be able to date each other basically while we were married. Just have fun together. I mean, we went to China, we went to Uganda, we saw the world, we did a lot of fun things. And I think that has only helped us, be on the same page through having kids, through taking on debt and everything, that, you know, we were able to get to know each other and then make that decision. And like Amber said, yeah, it is a personal choice, and it's you've got to look at it in your situation, but recognize that there isn't an ideal time. There's always going to be that promotion that, oh, if I just save a little more money, if we wait to have a kid so I can, we can buy a bigger house so that we can have those kids in, or, oh, but then I can buy a practice, and then you'll have your practice and you'll say, oh, but if we can just save up some more money and I can buy, the Prime Scan Omnicam,
the next thing,
3D scanner combo, there's always going to be something else that gets in your way if you don't just say, hey, let's try and make it work at some point.
Let me tell you the best thing that best thing I think about Mormons in particular, and that is this. I remember when Mitt Romney was running for president, a lot of people said, I don't know if we're ready to have a Mormon president. Oh, I don't know. Just like the biggest thing that blows up the most families is just alcoholism. At least he doesn't drink. Even Trump didn't drink. You know that? So the best thing about the Mormons is they're smart enough not to drink to be a drunk. But in dentistry, here's what's cool. Since you got buried in school, and since you already have one or two kids, you already have your Friday night family. So then when I would coach these guys, and I'd say, okay, like if you go to like Pew Research, they started with ocean, that covers 70% of the planet, and now they're getting into the atmosphere, which the atmosphere is not very thick. I think that's amazing. Like if the 8,000 mile wide Earth was scaled to the size of an apple, the atmosphere, it's only 60 miles thick. It'd be the thickness of the red skin. But they're also getting into healthcare, and they got all the demographics. So they have all the counties that don't have a dentist. So then I have coached several Mormons over the last 20 years, and I say, okay, here's a county. They got 7,000 people in this county. They got a town of 1,000 is the biggest. There's no dentist in the damn county. Now, you go down there and you go downtown, you're going to find that there's probably 4 or 5 boarded up buildings. So then you go find the mayor of that damn town and the banker of that town. You say, here's what I want. And play them off different cities. I'm talking to a few different cities, but if you gave me that building, that 6,000 square foot brick building on First Second, and you gave me a $300,000 signature loan, I think I'd set up a dental office here. And in some states like Iowa, if you go to one of the cities on that list, Delta of Iowa will give you a $100,000 grant, and so will the state of Iowa. So now you got $200,000, you got a free building, and then when they open up, you're the only dentist in the county. You don't take any insurance, and you can tell they don't take insurance by their prices. Like everything's $1,000, like denture, partial denture, root canal, molar. Yeah, they're each $1,000. Is like 1,112. No, it's just 1,000. And then the next set of prices are like 250. It's like, how much is the filling? 250. So like 4 is 1,000. I mean, yeah. They're the only dentist in town. And then in that town, a $10 an hour job is like a Walmart Costco job in Phoenix or Gilbert. And so their labor is I've never seen labor in those areas that's even above like 18%. And when I talk labor, I talk total labor. FICA matching, insurance, anything it costs to keep this sapien in the business, that's labor. Their labor is about 18%. Their overhead's 50%. And I can give the only boys I know that told me they were scared, told me they had all this student loan debts, that the first year did $1 million and netted 350 take home, all were Mormons because they could go to this town because they already had their dancing girl and the toys, and they don't need to go to the bars. They don't need to go to Scottsdale. Half these dentists marry a woman that if you want to hide something, you just put it in the oven and they'll never find it. They have the total family, and they're like, well, on Friday nights we don't do anything anyway. We don't go anywhere. Our whole party, bar, restaurant, our whole scene is our house. And then in those towns, you're usually only about 2 hours away from a big city. And I keep telling you young kids that you're 2 hours away from a driverless car. I mean, Phoenix was ground zero for Alphabet, and the driverless car thing did their 5-year deal here. They didn't kill anyone. In fact, I thought the wildest response from that report is the number one problem they had is that when people would see the driverless cars, they'd throw rocks at it. I mean, sapien.
I didn't know that.
And it wasn't, and you'd think, okay, wow, that happened in Apache Junction. No, that was in Chandler and Gilbert and Ahwatukee. I mean, you expect this shit going down in AJ, which, by the way, I can't say any more AJ jokes because I've for 30 years, all the jokes were always about Apache Junction. And now my granddaughter Evelyn was born in Apache Junction. And so now I none of those jokes work anymore. But the bottom line is this. If you get grounded, you get married, you have a kid, whatever, and you got a lot of student loans, I mean, demographics matter. And if you don't think demographics matter, then call me an idiot. Go set up your dental office in the Congo, Afghanistan, Venezuela. Take your pick. And after a year, you'll realize that demographics do matter and that you'd rather live in the United States than the Congo. And within the United States, just get away from, you got to get 2 hours away from a Southwest Airlines. In fact, here's my problem. You live in Gilbert?
We live in Mesa now. We just moved.
You live in Mesa? And that's where I live, Mesa. But anyway, but the bottom line is all my friends in the suburbs, here's what I have a problem with all my friends. They all wake up in the morning out there in Gilbert or Queen Creek or whatever. They wake up in a town that's like a dentist for every 2,000. Then they get on the interstate and commute for an hour. And when they get out of downtown, now they're at a dentist for every 500. You just drove the wrong way for an hour.
Right.
But if you get up in Gilbert and you drive an hour out of town, I mean, Eloy still doesn't have a dentist. I remember, do you know Dr. Pope down in Casa Grande? I mean, just kids like that. I mean, it was only the Mormons that would listen. He'd say, I want to go to Scottsdale. I want to do this. And I said, whoa, time out. Casa Grande still doesn't even have a dentist. Either does Florence, either does Eloy. I said a monkey could go down there and get 100 new patients the first month. And only the Mormons listen because they're desperate, they're hungry, they're already married, they got 2 kids, they're already picking out a new shoe to live in, and they'll say, okay, I'll listen. And they went down there. Eloy still doesn't have a dentist. When I drive to those, when I drive out to LA or whatever, when I get to those small towns in gas car, I'll put dentists near me, and then there won't be one. And then I'll go in and talk to the person like, oh yeah, there's no dentist out here. And I'm like, God dang, man, we're only like an hour from Palm Springs. You're only, in a driverless car, here's what's going to happen. In no time at all, your car is I'm going to be in a box. I'm either going to be in a lazy boy watching a big screen TV, or I'm going to be at a work desk, or I'm going to be sleeping. So let's say you work 2 hours south of here. Your alarm goes off at 6 o'clock. You just walk down to your garage, go lay that back down in your bed in your car, and automatically, and 2 hours later, it goes, ding, we're here. And then you can get up, wake up, go take a shower, and go be a dentist. But at the verge of driverless cars, and the fact that demographics matter so much, and by the way, and wanting to go back to Salt Lake to live around family, that's a great idea, but do you have to see the temple from the window of your operatory? I mean, really? Really? And by the way, you start doing LDS measurements. My gosh, there's tons of towns in Idaho, Montana, northern Arizona. Same thing with Arizona. I mean, demographics matter. You can have your cake and eat it too. Just get with your wife. Get transparent. She gave you her email. Her email was amber@thepaidbackapp.com. Get a damn plan. And remember that it's your own ego, but dude, and she loves you without owning a Mercedes-Benz. And furthermore, would you even want to be married to someone who would run off with a man in a Mercedes-Benz because you were in a Ford Pinto or whatever the hell? So, man, just know your numbers at your dental office. Debt is good if it's buying your means of production. But if all you're buying is consumption house, consumption boats, and diamond rings, and vacations to Hawaii. I have this one friend, and of course, it wasn't just me. It was like 6 guys were trying to talk him out of marrying her for the 2-year dating. And then we were all talking about it, just cut your losses and divorce her for like the next 6. And he just stayed with it. I mean, it's just unbelievable. Like, she'd be all stressed out. So she's like, oh, he's so stressed out. And it's all finance. So what I did is I surprised him. I booked 2 first-class tickets to Maui, and we're just going to have a getaway weekend. And every time she has an idea to relieve him stress, it's 10, 20 grand. And then she doesn't realize that's why he's on the toilet coughing up blood clots because of his Visa card. But he doesn't know how to tell his beautiful wife who tried to surprise him and all this kind of stuff like that. Dude, just get humble. Look at the numbers. And family first. You do it with your whole damn family. And how old's your 2 oldest kids?
Our oldest is 6.
Okay, I know you haven't met my four boys, but they're perfect. But anyway, here's what my recommendation for the kids. My dad had 9 Sonics, and by the time I was 10, he'd give me like a statement of cash flow and a balance sheet and make me figure out the missing deal. But what I did is like they said they want Nike shoes, and they'd say they wanted Air Jordans back in the day or whatever. I say Nike. So who's Nike? They go, Dad, it's a kind of a shoe. I said, well, I mean, did Santa Claus make it? Was it the Tooth Fairy? I mean, did Jesus make it? Who made that shoe? And they'd scratch your head. So then we go to Barnes and Nobles and we get the autobiography of Phil Knight, who started this shoe company. And then we would read that together and the stories and all that kind of stuff. And then I'd say, well, do you want me? Then we go buy the Nike, right? And we'd look at the shoe, and it was $100. And then they had their app, or would you rather spend the $100 on one share of Nike stock? And then they'd go, oh, man, and they'd be stressed out at the Foot Locker, and they wouldn't know. And I mean, it was just like, it just drive them crazy. Do I want the shoe or the stock? Dad's only going to buy me one. It's either the shoe or the stock. And then they'd want to go to Disneyland. And then the same thing, Disney. Was that his first name or his last name? Who's Disney? Then we'd read about Walt Disney. And then we come back. Okay, well, do you want to go to Disneyland? Or do you want Dad to buy you each one share of Disney? And then the same thing with the cruise. I mean, so I was always trying to buy in one share, because if you buy one share of stock, the SEC makes them physically mail you the 10K every year. You got the quarterly, the 10Q quarterly every quarter, but that they're allowed to hype and be optimistic and rah. But the 10K is no hype, no rah, and if you lie, you're going to sit in a cage. And so then they mail that, and there's your balance sheet, your statement of cash flow, and your statement of income. And my gosh, and then the other rule was if they wanted whatever they asked for, I didn't even listen. I said, absolutely. When I get home from work, we'll go there. And then we drive to Walmart, and they'd say, Dad, Walmart doesn't have that. Who was that famous skateboard guy that, Tony Hawk. Walmart doesn't have it. Well, let me tell you something. We read the book about Sam Walton. We made in the USA. We went to Bentonville and drove by his office when we visited Grandpa. Now, if you needed it, Sam and Helen know it, and it'd be in here. I mean, I'm looking at a 250,000 square foot building with everything, and you're telling me you want something that's not in Walmart? Well, then go find it yourself, buy it yourself, pay for yourself, because if you needed it, it'd be right here at Walmart. And the fact that it's not at Walmart, you don't need it. But man, buy him the share of Walmart. Buy him the share of Disney. Buy him just one share. Because in their mind, it's easier to track $10 going to 12 than 100 shares and doing the division. Just buy him one share. And the autobiographies, and my boys tell me that it was the life-changing influences was the autobiographies and the vacations going to all these places. You know what I mean? And,
for sure.
and when we went to Disneyland, they already read the book about Walt Disney, and they already owned a share of Disney.
That's pretty awesome.
That's the Ferran way of going to Disneyland. But hey, thank you so much for all you do. And kids, don't worry about debt if it's to own your own means of production. That's really, really good. But if you're just owning it for consumption and status and diamonds and Gucci purses, then you're crazy. But thanks for all you do for dentistry. And thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thanks you,
for
Howard.
having us.
That was fun.
Thank you.